Chapter 8. Jobs in Computing. They wandered back the way they had come, back past the bar, and down another street of terraced houses. Zeta stopped outside one, opened her bag, and rummaged through it. She brought out a notebook and pen. "I need to get you a fake ID. What name do you want to use?" The pen hovered above the page. I think I'll stick with Michael Cobb," he answered. The door to the house in front of them opened, and the programmer called Python leant against the doorframe. "Aren't I staying with you?" Peter asked her. "Don't you think that could blow your cover, staying with me?" She looked at him shrewdly, stowed away the notebook. People can be stupid about many things, but never about other people's relationships. Anyway, it's all arranged. Suddenly she smiled. "I'll leave you two to get acquainted." With that, she waved to Python, who waved back, and she wandered towards an official-looking car parked across the road. Peter watched her get in and drive off. He walked up the short garden path towards Python. "Hello again," Python said cheerily. "Sorry about Java earlier. He's under a lot of pressure. Big opening in a month. Please, come in." And with that, he ushered Peter into a comfortable-looking home. It was very tidy, but had few soft furnishings. It looked like it had been House of the Month in an architectural magazine. "Can I get you something to eat and drink? Our mayor never seems to think that people may want to relax." Peter followed Python into the kitchen, which was at the back of the house. The whole ground floor had been knocked through into one main room. Peter noted how expensive everything looked. Comfortable seats, freestanding lights, tasteful art, and a serious-looking computer workstation. "That would be—" he searched for a word. "Great, thank you." He suddenly realised how tired and hungry he was. "Please, take a seat." Python pointed to the kitchen table and chairs. Peter sat down as Python handed over a bottle of beer and laid the table. He then went back to the stove and returned with some soup and bread for both of them. "It's not very good, but it's filling and nourishing." The soup was, of course, delicious, and after his second bowl and third slice of bread, Peter began to relax. Python was good company, very easy to get to know. Peter had initially been wary of telling him too much, but it became obvious that Python was very much on Zeta's side. Peter yawned, even though it was not late. Python had made up a bed in the spare room on the top floor, and insisted that Peter rest. He was happy to oblige, and soon lay back on the bed, not meaning to sleep, but sleep came easy, and it was filled with the dreams of being chased by a large virus down a narrow pipe. He awoke early the next morning. It took him a while to remember where he was. He glanced out of the window and spotted some familiar shapes on the skyline, dotted about with many new ones too. He slowly got dressed, deep in thought. As he came downstairs, he could hear Python and Zeta as they talked quietly in the living area. "He has to be ready. You will help him, won't you?" Zeta asked. "Zeta, he doesn't know any of this. What you're asking takes time. You have to work at it. It's a craft, not a talent. I'm not sure we have time to—" Python stopped talking when he saw Peter come down the stairs. "Morning," said Peter. He yawned a little. "Would that he you were talking about be me?" Zeta put down a coffee cup, turned, gave Peter a false smile. It was obvious she had had a late night. "I have complete confidence in your abilities," she said. "Sounds like a old argument," he replied, and regretted it, then added, "I'll try to help. I said I would last night. I meant it." Zeta opened her bag and searched some keys. "Well, I'll leave you in Python's capable hands. Bye, darling." "Bye," said Peter and Python together. An uncomfortable silence followed. Zeta just smiled, pursed her lips, amused. She walked towards the door and let herself out. Python smiled apologetically. Peter realised then it must have been Python who Zeta used to go out with, before he came along. He also wondered what had happened in the past 4 years, and what Python thought about his return. Strangely, Peter felt emboldened by the challenge. If she felt that he could do the job but not Python, then that must work in his favour, surely. After a short breakfast and a trip to the loo, a shave and a shower, Peter returned to find Python had turned on the TV. There was another attack again last night. The news says it was a lightning strike. A little weak as the sky was completely clear. Pretty big payload too. I think this must have been a Trojan. Python looked round at Peter. "It's exactly a year since the first attack," he explained. Peter still looked confused, so he continued. "Trojan viruses are named after the Trojan horse. They deliver their payload long after they've been installed, usually a significant date." He turned back to look at the TV and continued. "I think it was set to go off today. Nobody hurt. It was an old data warehouse, barely had any traffic. There was only a security guard on the site, and he wasn't harmed." Peter looked at the screen and saw what was left of the building from where he had emerged last night. A chill ran through him. Python clicked the TV off. Nothing coming through that pipe again anyway. Peter stared at the blank screen. Unlikely that it was a coincidence, he thought. But it also meant that his escape route had been cut off, and the tablet was broken, so no communication link with the outside world. Python wandered back through to the kitchen. Peter followed him. "OK," said Peter, as he sat down at the kitchen table. "What do I need to know?" Python joined him on the seat opposite. "Well, that's just it. What can you do now?" he asked. "Precisely nothing," said Peter, with a grim smile. Python didn't think his gallows humour was amusing. "I think we need to get you a job, some role where you can work with a team trying to prevent the attack. They're all public servants," he said dismissively. "Most haven't got a clue, so you should be able to find a position for you." Peter ignored the dig. "I need to understand the problem if I'm going to have to save your sorry ass. So what's the problem?" he said with a smile. Python regarded him for a second, then smiled too. "OK, we're under attack." "From whom?" asked Peter. "We don't actually know, but we call them the hacker," said Python. "Why is this hacker attacking us?" asked Peter. "No idea. There are a few theories, but nothing concrete." Python shrugged his shoulders. "Why do you think we're under attack?" Peter relished the "we're under attack." Felt good to be part of the town again. "Well, the most likely reason is money. Power and money. But I don't know any of their demands. And Zeta says that the lack of any demands is causing problems. People are turning on each other because they can't agree what they need to do." Zeta told me. "When and where do these attacks take place?" asked Peter. Python leant back and pulled out 8 folders, one by one from the shelf behind him, and handed them to Peter. Each was filled with sheets of paper, photos, maps, all about the attacks. Peter looked at them for a while. "Zeta told me last night there had been 10 attacks, 11 after last night, but there are only 8 folders here. What about the other 2? Python looked annoyed. "Well, I don't know anything about those, and the government aren't releasing any information. These are the ones I know about. I'll have to ask her about the other 2. "OK. How are we being attacked?" asked Peter. "By computer viruses, and they come in various forms. We don't really understand them. We're trying to. We don't think that they're too complex. Not too much for our programmers anyway. But here in the town they appear to have a real physical impact. So we're banned from studying them." "But what are they?" "Oh, they're just computer programs," said Python. "Just programs? Then why don't you just delete them?" "But they look just like any other program." "Until they deliver your destructive payload," nodded Peter. "Exactly," said Python. "Why can't you find them before they run?" Python got up and wandered around the kitchen. "We run millions of programs here each day. The virus consists of only a few hundred lines, usually within an insert program that's made up of millions of lines of code. This isn't like finding a needle in a haystack. It's more like finding a needle in a world of haystacks." "But you could still find it," insisted Peter. "Well, not before the bomb goes off." Peter looked at him. "Bomb?" Figure of speech. The first attack looked like an explosion. Python mimed with his hands. "No, bomb. Like in a museum. Alan Turing's bomb. Or actually, Marian Rejewski's, a Polish mathematician, created a bomber. The first computer. But his was really just a reverse-engineered Enigma machine. So it was really Turing's machine that was the first computer. But it was inspired by Rejewski's and Zagalski's work." "OK," said Python, a little taken aback. Peter looked up from the folders. Python stared at him, so he continued. "Turing's used an early computer program to look for secret codes. Why can't we use a code to look for computer programs?" "I'm not sure I follow you," said Python. He sat down again. Peter seemed lost in thought. "I reckon these viruses must have a sort of a footprint. We could work out what that footprint looks like. Then we can hunt for them in the code." Python said, "Yeah, but that would still take ages." Peter interrupted. "Not if we use a program to hunt for the viruses. We teach the program what to look for and get it to do the work." "But what are we looking for? How do we do that?" asked Python. "I don't know," said Peter vaguely, lost in thought. "Leave it with me." Peter spent the rest of the day and evening poring over the information in the folders. He broke off every now and then to ask Python a question. Zeta came round in the early evening, but Peter barely registered her presence. Eventually he was coaxed to the table to have something to eat. Zeta spoke conversationally. Well, now we know what job you should do. No response, so she continued. Python tells me you're a natural analyst. Asked loads of questions. Kept on pressing until you understood. Definitely an analyst. Whether a system, IT or business analyst, I suppose time will tell, she said, and smiled at Python. Peter hadn't appeared to listen, but he said, no, not an analyst. I'll have to write the program. He bit his nails and stared at the table. I don't know what it needs to do yet, so I'll have to understand how to code myself. Suddenly he stood up. I should probably start right now. He walked out of the kitchen and retrieved one of the folders he had left. Zeta turned in a chair and shouted after him, but Python says you're an analyst, not a developer. Peter returned, I'm neither. I'm not a thinker, I'm a doer. I learn by doing something. Who can teach me to program? Python? Peter suddenly looked up, as if he'd just noticed them for the first time.